Hello and welcome back to the Honors Podcast. Today's guest is Mac Mollins. He is a double major in history and political science and was recently named a Fulbright semifinalist. Unfortunately, the beginning of our conversation experienced technical difficulties and the beginning part is missing. Sorry, guys. But just know that once we jump in, we are talking about Mac's process of applying for that Fulbright scholarship and the writing resources he was utilizing to make sure his essays were top notch. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to the Honors Podcast.
And I send it to Dr. Cotton. And so Dr. James Cotton, he's an application guru, basically. And so he has us do all these, he reads over the essays and all that. And so he sends it back, and it is just marked up. And so 12 drafts later, I finally have something that I submitted. So it's definitely a process there, but it's really about soul searching and finding, one, why do I want to go there? And two, why would I be the best fit amongst, hundreds of applicants in a sense? Yeah. So it's definitely it's a process, but it really helps you with writing concise essays. And writing that Fulbright helped me write my CLS because then I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of how you have to write an essay.
Yeah.
So now I got the CLS, so now I have to wait on Fulbright.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Are you like pretty chilling out waiting for it, or is it causing any stress at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I chose to not pursue grad school for this upcoming year because I wanted to take a year to really see what I could do with just a bachelor's. I didn't want to throw my, hat in the ring when, there's a lot of spending that has to come with it, and I want to be able to make smart financial decisions on that part. So I chose to apply to jobs, so I've sent out a few job applications here or there as well. But yeah, so waiting has been a bit, tense, I guess you could say, because, this is what I would love to do for the upcoming year. There's, of course, other options, but this is definitely the one that
Yeah.
I'm tense about. Yeah.
Yeah, I know it is. I know I definitely want to try to apply for Fulbright my senior year because I have a Chinese minor.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
So
yeah.
there's maybe a good chance for Taiwan, but it's still such a gamble a little bit.
Yeah,
'Cause
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like if you qualify for a semifinalist, it's kind of just luck at that point. Whether
Right, yeah. I know one of the current Fulbright applicants, semifinalists. Have you ever met Savannah Graver?
yeah,
Yeah, so she's currently waiting on her master's. She applied for a master's at Taiwan, some research institute, I believe. So, there's a strong Mandarin program here, so I have no doubts. And you've got such a unique perspective, coming from a theater
yeah,
background and all that. So I think that would be something fascinating that they'd love to look into.
yeah. I hope so, but worry about it when that time comes.
Yeah, yeah.
Probably next semester. We gotta
True.
start thinking about it.
Mm.
This is good. Where are you from? I don't know this.
I'm from just south of Raleigh, a little town called Clayton, North Carolina. It's it's a fairly small town, one of those railroad towns that if you were to pass all the way down from Washington down Raleigh, it would pass right through. So it's pretty small. I live kind of on the outskirts of this town, so but I think it's a pretty little area. You've got a lot of walking trails. You've got a greenway that goes up to Raleigh. I really enjoy it.
So it's very woodsy. Like, kind of grew up in a woodsy backyard.
Yeah, very woodsy, and then a lot of tobacco fields as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so lots of tobacco. Yeah.
That's fun. That's weird. I live near a town in Clayton, Georgia.
Oh,
So
yeah.
for a second, I
yeah.
was like, wait, no, that's in Georgia.
There's
Yeah,
so many Claytons.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what that word. What is that name? What's that word? Where's it come from?
Like town of clay. So I guess they found a
Oh,
lot of clay in the area and they're like
yes.
Clayton. Or they came from a place called Clayton and they were like, I'll
Maybe.
just name it
The
after my
Clayton
old
I know
place.
also has a railroad that goes through it.
Oh yeah?
So maybe there's a railroad thing too.
Wow, look at that.
That was fun. Anyway, that's very cool. Uh, so when you were growing up, do you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Ooh, that's a hard question. I think, because I always had like different ideas. I know at first I wanted to be a scientist, but I think after middle school, I really wanted to work with history no matter what. That's always been my passion. I read a lot of fantasy novels, and then that led me to history, medieval history. And then after that, I just kind of, it snowballed from there.
Yeah.
And I think I gradually over time started solidifying that I really like political and social history. So, how people interact and react to, political events, how they inform what politicians do. So, like, my big area I really enjoy revolutionary Europe, so 1789 to roughly 1815. And then I like, 1848, there's a second round of revolutions. And, just like the causation behind that and, the bickering between the revolutionaries about what should be done afterwards. That's all fascinated me in the politics. And so I started initially as wanting to be a historian in that regard, but I think nowadays I really want to serve as a political analyst.
In
Typically,
like different countries or in America?
probably, I'd of course love to travel, but I'd really love to work within the State Department
Yeah.
or working as an analyst for a news station or something like that, where I get to utilize my knowledge of the past in order to inform people about present situations, which in turn helps influence the future. So
As like a person that goes on air, maybe.
I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, because you definitely have the voice for it.
Thank you. Yeah, yeah. My dad and I both have had aspirations for being on air and all that. So
Yeah.
maybe I'll get to realize it. But yeah, so that's kind of what I really like to do is just be able to gush about history and inform people
Yeah.
in an impactful way.
Yeah. You mentioned back in like middle school or whatever, you read like fantasy novels that kind
Yeah.
of get you. Did you have like a favorite series or TV show even?
Ooh, yeah. I'd have to say, in middle school specifically, I think I first started out with the Percy Jackson series. That really got me down into all the fun stuff there. But I think what I've really enjoyed is the Stormlight Archives. It's by author named Brandon Sanderson. He's a real creative guy when it comes to this stuff. He creates these very unique worlds. So in the Stormlight Archives, it's kind of this flat area ravaged by what they're called high storms. They just
Yeah.
beat down on the earth. There's no grass anywhere. It's just rugged plains. It's really cool. So creating these unique worlds just fascinated me as a child and, the cultures that emerge from it. And so his writings, and then I really enjoyed this series. It's not a lot of people know it. It's called The Belgariad. It's by this small-time author. My dad read it when he was a kid, and so he gave me his books.
Oh, so it's like an old series.
Yeah, it's pretty old, and definitely you can tell it kind of just borrows a lot from Lord of the Rings and all that. So it's different, but I enjoyed it a lot.
This is cool. All right, so you got that Mac Mullins lore, and then we fast forward to senior year of high school.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And going into your freshman year of college, which you came here,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
What were you remember what you were looking for in college, what you were hoping for, what you thought it was going to be like?
Yeah, I think one of the big things for me was professors that you could interact with and get to know, and who would be in your court, so to speak. So, for instance, like I looked at a lot of colleges in state, so NC State, App State, UNC, that kind of thing. And while they're great colleges, what I found really stood out to me about High Point is that, I'd go in for orientation or during Presidential Scholars Weekend. I'd go and I'd talk to these professors, and then they immediately, made that connection with me. And, even beyond, I wasn't just, another name in the classroom. I was somebody that they could, bring up research topics for. They'd come up to me and be like, "Hey, we're starting this project. Would you like to help?" And when the time came, they'd be the ones that would actually guide me down the path to where I am now. Tell me about scholarship opportunities, or have me speak at conferences. So I'd really say that the professors is what really drew me in, and the niceties of the campus were of course a plus, but I think the professors is the number one thing for me.
And what did you come in as? History?
History and poli sci.
Okay, so
Yes.
you knew right from the get-go.
I knew right from the get-go. I had debated with history and business because that's what my dad was.
Yeah.
My dad was business, but my dad was like, "I've never seen you read a business book in your life," so I was like, "Yeah, fair enough."
Yeah.
So,
And then, so that being history and political science, what then brought you into honors?
well, that's a funny story. I guess so. I had applied to High Point, and then I thought, this is a great place, but I'm never going to be able to afford this. I never really put much thought into it. I sent the application, and I get invited to Presidential Scholars Weekend. And so I actually had never been to campus before Presidential Scholars. So I go on, and I'm like, wow, this is pretty incredible. But still, I can't possibly. So I don't make any investment into applying to the honors program. But I get it. I get admitted, and then I get the. I was fortunate enough to get the Presidential Founders Scholarship, so I'm like, okay, well, sign me up. And then I immediately go, and I see the honors program thing is being offered, and I'm like, okay, I got to submit real quick. So it's like. I think it was like 3 or 2 days before the deadline. I immediately write up an essay, send it in, and fortunately I was accepted. But I remember looking at the program and being like, wow, this is cool. Living and learning community, that kind of thing, and being able to actually interact with people that are also in the program daily. And so I was keeping my fingers crossed that I wasn't too late, kind of deal.
Yeah.
And so it turns out that I wasn't, and I get in. And I remember the summer before school starts having a Zoom call with Dr. Hedman, and he brings out Hickory, of course, and he shows off the dog. And I remember seeing some of the people that would eventually be like my really close friends. So I don't know if you'll have Chloe Cox on at all. But I remember seeing her on that Zoom call, and it's quite fascinating. The fact that I was there, and there were just people there that would be shaping kind of who I was right there, and I had no clue. And so the honors experience there has just been fascinating in that regard. It all came down to chance, and I couldn't be more grateful for how it's turned out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything specific about that experience, particularly like living in Finch or the
Yeah.
early classes you took?
Yeah.
You already talked about working, so.
Yeah. Well, I'll die on this hill when I say that Finch is not as bad as everybody else says. I think Finch is wonderful. So the Finch, you're living with a group of people that are stellar academics. It may get a bit, Actually, I wouldn't even say that it would get competitive at all. You're with people that are stellar academics that are specialized in different fields and passionate about it, which is what I really cared for. So, like, I'd come, home from my classes, and I'd talk about, during freshman and sophomore year, what was I doing? I would have probably been talking. There was a medieval history course, so I'd go home and I'd talk about that. And then, my friend Ethan Muckerhide, he'd talk about, how he learned about, Freudian psychology or something like that. And then Chloe would talk about, her research and working with bacteria and all that. So just that experience was great. And then having it in a closed, an environment where you have your rooms, you can get out and find a, common room, hang out there. You can hang out in your friends' rooms. And then, right next door is Slane. Everything is so close. And that's why I firmly believe that Finch is probably one of the best dorms out there. I enjoyed it.
I
Enjoyed it a
agree.
lot. Yeah.
Like, just the fact that I, like, know every single person on my floor
Mm-hmm.
and, like, can go knock on their doors whenever I want.
Yeah.
Be like, hey, can I help with homework? I don't know what's going on.
Exactly. Like, I lived out in the houses last year, and I didn't know my neighbors at all.
Yeah.
I couldn't go over there, knock and ask for, hey, you want to hang out or something like that. Just didn't really know them, and they
No.
play loud music or fix their cars. I don't know anything about cars, so
Really?
yeah. Well,
You get that impression.
I know the basics, but like I'm not the type of guy to differentiate a V8 engine from a V6 or something like that. So, but everybody out there is very kind in the Finch dorm.
So it was good.
Yeah.
And, like, you keep those relationships after you like, move out of Finch and still.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. It's been a bit harder this year with all the senior stuff that you have to do, but it's just yesterday we had a celebration dinner for Chloe. She just got accepted into a University of Minnesota grad program, which was her top choice.
Yeah, I
so
heard about that.
we all gathered together and we had Mexican food. People that I've known since freshman year all gathered around, and it was a great experience.
This is great. What aspect of honors is, like, the most impactful, like, for the learning experience that you don't get in, like, the fellows, you might say?
Well, we've already touched on the living and learning community. That's, of course, one of the most impactful parts. But I'd
Like,
also,
why?
well, I'd say one is, you're working with there's I'm going to paraphrase that Dr. Cobain quote. It's something along the lines of, you are who you choose to surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one thing that honors does very well is it surrounds you with people that are actively working to, live a very academic, very hardworking life, and they really want to be stellar in their academics and then pursue some goals in the future. And so you're surrounding yourself with all these fascinating people, and in a way, it's it's inspiring. Everybody there, you want to be like everybody there, and so in turn, that makes you perform harder, and then it's a positive cycle, I'd say.
Yeah, like, when you were just talking about, like, hearing Ethan talk about Freudian psychology and Chloe about bacteria, it's like you learn a lot about all these other different areas and stuff because, like, you're also interested in it, but not to the point where you're going to take a class. But you still have that opportunity to, like, learn from your friends.
Exactly.
We just all just, I think it's so nerdy how we all just start teaching each other about our own majors, and we're like, did you know this? Because I found out today.
Yeah, I mean, we are definitely a lot of nerds, but it's a great thing to be surrounded. I think it's a great thing, and and everybody has their own separate groups as well, and that makes it even better because then you have like this connection throughout campus, like
Yeah.
For instance, Ben Niehaus was my suite mate back in freshman year, and now he's president of the SGA. Or, I'm in the Takata Tones, or, we've got RAs everywhere. Just
Yeah.
people. You've just got this real community that allows that. You're bound by honors in a great way, and then you can expand beyond that to other
Yeah.
different areas. And so it's great to watch everybody grow and
Yeah.
develop, and in turn do it yourself.
Yeah, that's something I'm always promoting on tour as an ambassador, which used to be. But is like how great the honors program is, but then how we like infiltrate everything.
Yeah.
I think it's really funny. We're like a weird disease. We just like start infiltrating every single part of campus, which becomes really good at networking. Because if you need something from SGA, most of your friends are on the SGA cabinet, or like you need a T-tone candygram or something. You know them,
Yeah,
and all
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I love going to the theater performances and being like, oh yeah, I know them. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know them. It's like it is funny how many theater kids are also in the honors program. I love seeing it though. It's so fun. But yeah, so you just like I don't know, just being able to walk around and see all the
it was
honors
fun.
people's fun.
Yeah, and then of course we have our fearless leader, the lovely Dr.
Of
Hedman,
course.
which you mentioned you had that initial Zoom call over the summer,
Yes.
which
Yeah.
I didn't get. That's kind of upsetting.
Oh,
But do you have a
what about
top like moment with Dr. Hedman, or your like impression of him when you first met him, like the humanistic inquiry class, or
it? Um. Eh, You know, I think he's just got such an amazing personality that it's hard to remember the first
yeah,
impression, because it's just
it's
as
just
soon
all
as
the
you
time.
know who he is, you're like, that's who Dr. Hedman is.
Yeah,
I think uh, the first few impressions I got was this guy. He's so funny, and I'm glad that he's in charge of the honors program instead of some because I think you can tell that he cares, and you can see it on his face, and you can see it in the way that he teaches. And his humor is hilarious as well. So just all around, someone that you'd want head in the mast, guiding the ship, kind of thing. You
yeah,
know.
it was fun. He definitely like sends out requests to the students a lot, especially
Hmm.
if you're an honors mentor. He like sends you on these wild projects to like do all these crazy things. But yeah, it's very cool. I've also loved. It's very reassuring, especially your freshman year and being in that class. It's just like our own mini president seminar.
Yeah.
That's actually helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's definitely like just the activities that he gives and the readings. They really help. You kind of acclimate to that college environment, I think.
yeah,
And then it also lets you see all the other people in the honors program, or at least in your grade. So that's fun.
that was cool. I want to hear about the study abroad last semester
Mm-hmm.
because that was out of the blue.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
heard you were studying abroad. I was like, he's doing what?
yeah. It very much was. I think so. At the start of junior year, I had kind of a shake up in my career choice. I was like, maybe I don't want to be a historian. Maybe I want to do something more government related. So as I was talking about earlier, and so I immediately go over to Dr. Setzler about this. Dr. Mark Setzler. He's in the poli sci program. He serves as a kind of a Latin Americanist poli sci professor. He specializes in Brazil. And so I talked to him, and he's like, well, there's this opportunity called the Boren Scholarship that you could apply to, and you could actually go study abroad, funded by the Department of Defense. And so I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's pretty cool. I'd love to apply that. So I apply to that. So I go to Dr. Cotton, and he does the same thing as I was talking about earlier. And so I did probably 9 drafts over winter break, and I come back, I submit, and then I find out in, I want to say, March that I get it. And then, as soon as that happens, I kind of get whisked away. It goes real quick. May, I'm in DC. They're giving us orientation. June, I get flown out to Madison, Wisconsin, where I get my preliminary training. So that's from, I think, mid June to mid August. And so they are basically teaching me the fundamentals of Turkish because they don't want me going there and being like, how do I say hello kind of deal.
Yeah.
So, and then finally they fly me out and on my birthday, September 4th. So for my birthday, I turned 21 years old and I fly all the way over to Azerbaijan, Baku, the capital. And, I get there and it's every day you're doing language training. And I'm just speaking Turkish all the time. When I first started, even after the preliminary training, I remember getting off the bus and meeting my first Azerbaijani person, which was my host brother. And, he goes, Salam alaikum, which is an Arabic phrase. And I'm like, how do I respond to that?
Like you thought it was Turkish?
Well, I definitely knew it was Arabic, but I didn't know how to respond, which, for your information,
Obviously.
if you want to respond, it's alaykum salam. It means, may you come in peace, roughly. So eventually, I get the hang of it. I make friends with my host mom. We have like karaoke nights and all that. We make Dolly Parton brownies, which, she enjoyed. And then, I just got to see the sights. Azerbaijan's beautiful. The people are super friendly and very curious about Americans.
Really?
Yeah, it's post USSR. So they were under the USSR, the Soviet Union, back in the day. So they're currently, in their 34th year of independence. So still, they're having a transition right now where there's a lot more people that are starting to speak English as opposed to Russian, that kind of thing. So a lot of the younger people know English, whereas the older people know more Russian. So it's very interesting in that regard. And
That's very cool.
yeah.
Did you have any cool cultural interactions over there
Oh,
outside
yeah.
of the learning and all that?
Oh yeah, there's one of my favorite moments was being able to go with my language partner. We were assigned a language partner to just speak with. He took me to what's called the Kuz Kulesi. It translates to the Maiden Tower. It's this gigantic building in the middle of Baku, and it's really old from the, I think, 1400s. It was built just so that you could look and see if anyone's coming in any direction. And so we go to the top, and the sun's setting, and he's telling me the story of the Kuz Kulesi, and the birds are flying over. I get this beautiful picture. It's actually people won't be able to see that, but it's on my phone. It's my lock screen. And I stopped to think to myself at that moment, just how fortunate I was to be in this situation, to be able to witness this with my own eyes. I think of the people, years before me who, wouldn't have been able to dream of being able to go to these places. And I'm glad to have been, maybe not the first generation of people to go into Azerbaijan after the Cold War, but, one of the following generations, and be able to share kind of my culture with them and them in turn share it with me. So being able to eat their foods, if you're ever in Azerbaijan, I'd recommend looking for piti, which is really, really good.
Is that a dish or that's like a place?
It's a dish. Okay. So it's if you don't mind eating lamb, it's lamb, and then it's got bread. It's in a kind of a jar, a clay jar, and then you got to mix it up in there. It's really good. It's really good.
That sounds good. Yeah, I love lamb. That's kind of like Greek food, kind of too.
Yeah. So there is a bit of a connection. So they're a Turkic country, Azerbaijan. So they have a lot of connections with Turkey. So if you look throughout Asia, kind of all the way up into the China area, there are countries that are of Turkic origin. So they used to be a lot of Turkish tribes that would roam across what's now Russia, Kazakhstan. And so gradually they settled, and some migrated to what's now Turkey and also Azerbaijan. So there's a lot of shared culture in that regard. And then during the Ottoman period and then following Turkey, there was a lot of cultural exportation into Azerbaijan as well. So there's a lot of cultural exchange between the two countries, and so of course Greece is right there. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's so cool. I always wonder, like comparing like American states to like European countries. It's obviously not the same thing, but a lot of states do have kind of their independent
Yeah.
culture and different
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
And like obviously I can travel for miles and still be in America, whereas like I can like traverse countries in Europe. So I'm so excited to go to Prague this summer and doing that
yeah.
semester. Because I'm planning my like the 2 weekends we have free. I'm like, we're going here and here.
I'm excited for you. I've heard amazing stories about those, about going there. I did not take part in it, unfortunately, but I have heard plenty of stories of, people going up to Poland, going down to Vienna, and then, of
Yeah.
course, there's a place in Prague. It's called Sunset Hill, I want to say, and so you can go sit there and watch the sunset. I've heard it's beautiful. I've seen pictures. And the old architecture, of course, is gorgeous.
Yeah.
So,
I had this weird thing growing up where I was so like disappointed that there wasn't like old fancy architecture
yeah.
like where I lived. It was just like basic.
Yeah, yeah. That's the crazy thing. You go up to like these, buildings in Europe or something, and then you're like, oh, this is older than my country kind of deal. So,
They're so old. It's so cool. It's a nice perspective reminder. Like, I'm just one lifeline in this vast timeline of humanity.
it's humbling. I went to a place where they have cave paintings from 10,000 years ago. And so just being able to see that was really crazy. So I went up and, I was actually able to get up close and I could see like where the etchings were made in these cave paintings. And so that I think that's kind of the same experience you'll get when you go up to see these,
Yeah.
these really old buildings and stuff like that. So.
I'm very excited. Back to the Turkey cultural exchange. Was there, and you mentioned they're very interested in Americans.
Yes,
Was
yeah.
there anything you like, I don't know, taught them that they're like, whoa, American?
Well, what I find interesting is so with my host mom, she loves Whitney Houston, Michael Jackson, and so we talked about Michael Jackson a lot because she loves Michael Jackson. She didn't understand what he was saying, but she did like get the feeling of him. But the interesting thing was I'd ask her about, the songs that we'd associate with Michael Jackson. Like, oh, do you know Thriller? And she's like, huh? Or, Bad? And she didn't know them. And then I start listening to the one she knows, and it starts to make sense. So, like the What About Us, that one, or It Doesn't Matter If You're Black or White, those ones. So she really liked those ones. And so I start thinking and I realize that all of those songs that she was listening to were the ones that she heard after the USSR fell in the 90s when she was, in her 20s, 30s. And so the ones that came before she wouldn't have been able to really
Right.
listen to. So that was a little bit of a fun little cultural thing that I learned, and so then I was, of course, able to share with her all the, the early Michael Jackson stuff, like I Want to Rock With You, Bad, that kind of stuff, and she loved that as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so that was one of my favorite things, but of course, engaging in dialogue about, American culture. We talked about, the election cycle was up, so they were very interested about that. So I got to explain, how American democracy worked. Explaining the Electoral College when you're, not very certain about Turkish is, it's a challenge, but, I tried my best.
Like, even if I could speak Turkish, I could not explain the Electoral College.
It's so complicated, but yeah, so they I think they got the gist of it. So
Well,
that
that's
was the fun.
impressive.
Yeah. So the American system is very foreign in a lot of ways to them because it's fairly new in a lot
Yeah.
of because 30 years prior they had I think it was if I may be wrong about this, but it was mainly run through a party system where people in the Russian top elite would then appoint someone to be governor of Azerbaijan and stuff like that. So
That's cool.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, because I always wonder, is like, how do people view governments of other countries? Because I feel like Europeans and those countries, they like pay more attention to others more
Yeah.
than Americans do. We're just like, we're living in our own world over here.
Yeah, their system definitely revolves around focusing on Russia first because they border Russia,
Yeah.
and then their neighbors. So that would be Armenia and Turkey for the most part. Those are their two primary. Well, and Iran. So they border Iran, Turkey, Armenia, and Russia. So definitely they keep up to date with those countries.
Yeah, I mean, makes sense. Pretty cool. All right, so you did that, and then you came back here to finish out strong.
Yep.
Are you finishing out strong?
Yeah. So I'm writing my thesis essays right now. They're I chose to be a history and poli sci major, so I got to write a lot, and so now I'm writing a lot. So I'm wrapping those up now. I'm writing currently on the Greek Revolution in my history paper, and then I'm writing on the effects of the Chilean constitutional referendum on the youth in Chile for my poli sci paper. So they're they're a bit vastly different, but I found both very interesting, and so
Yeah.
I've currently wrapped up my research portions of them. So it's now just writing, which it's fun, and then it just takes a while too.
No, that's fun. Have you become a better writer over your time here?
I'd say so. I think one of the things that I have struggled to deal with is what my dad calls founding fathers writing, and that's just writing really, really long and windy sentences, and so writing in academic style really helps with trying to get into a very standardized and very efficient format that gets the point across immediately.
Yeah.
Because unless you're, looking to read something fun, I guess, then you just want the bare bones of everything and essential details. So that's what I try to do with my papers now, which back at the start of my college career, which I had to look back at my very first paper, did not have that stuff. Nor I used a lot of popular history books, which I probably would never use now. So, like, if you were to go to Barnes and Noble, those books probably would not recommend using those books for a history paper.
Why? Why is that?
Well, they have a citation problem. They don't, they don't have, they'll make a claim and then they'll put it in their bibliography that, all the books that they cited, but then you're like, well, where did you get this claim specifically
you can't
from?
trace the sources to the
can't-
primary.
Yeah, you can't trace it.
Yeah, that's really cool. It sounds like a lot of writing. Could not be me. And then, of course, we're approaching graduation. Gonna be popping out of here. So as we near graduation, your graduation, in your opinion, what has been the point of college for you?
The point of college for me has been to, I think in a lot of ways, it's to find the people that will, one, influence who I am and, change and, inspire me, provide me with new insight and develop as a person, while also meeting people that'll push me and make me aspire to be a better person, and then in turn, finding those people that'll make those connections for the future with me. As I mentioned, I found out about the Boren Scholarship through Dr. Setzler. And that wouldn't have happened if I hadn't gone here. I wouldn't have, I doubt I'd have the same personality as I do now if I had not known my friends. I would definitely not have been singing in the Takata tones if I had not, encountered these people who, absolutely love as brothers and friends and stuff like that. And so, just the college experience is very much about meeting these people who will academically, emotionally in good ways, and professionally push you to improve and, be the best yourself. And so, I found that in droves here. I've never entering college, I never would have imagined where I'd end up, and now here I am, and I couldn't be more grateful for the opportunities that I've had.
That's very cool. Thank you for sharing, Mac. So I have a new tradition on this podcast
Oh, okay,
that I
okay.
just started, where the previous guest has left a question for the next guest.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah. So this is going to be the last question of the episode, and then you'll get the opportunity to leave your own question for the next guest as
Okay,
well.
okay.
So the previous guest asked, "Are you a pencil or pen person? Why?"
Oh, I am a pencil person. So I feel like my professors hate me for this. I have my little pencil sharpener that I keep by my desk,
Oh no.
and then I'll always be sharpening it throughout class, and I'll be writing down my notes. And the reason I've really like pencils over pens is that one, the feeling. It's more tactile, I think, than a pen. It's just like with a pen, and then the yeah,
Yeah.
it just makes sense to me. And then you can also erase. That's the one thing that I love because I always misspell things, and I don't want to go back and be like, oh no,
Right.
embarrassing kind of deal. So I think everyone should invest in a pencil. And
I'm kind of shocked that it's like not a mechanical pencil for you.
no, I love me a wooden pencil.
See, I'm all about that mechanical pencil because I can't be like sharpening it all throughout class.
Yeah.
I like having that fine point, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's just satisfying to me. I don't know what it is. Like
I can
sharpening
see that
it
for
and then
you.
it's suddenly so nice.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but I'd highly recommend anyone listening to this get their pencils.
Do you have a favorite pencil brand?
Eh, Dixon, probably.
Good old Dixon number 2.
I do not like Ticonderoga. I love me some Dixon, though. Yeah.
All right, there you go. Well, I'll let you finish out the podcast by writing your own question for the next guest. Can be whatever you want, as deep or silly as you want.
Okay. Ooh.
It's good.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to the second episode of the Honors Podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube. And always, stay curious.